Welcome to Cardano for Everyone, a podcast series from Pasta Steak Pool. Each episode explores something new about Cardano in a way that's simple and accessible for everyone. In the mood for some Cardano magic? Let's get started.
All right, let's dive into the world of IOHK and their huge impact on blockchain. They're founded by Charles Hoskinson and Jeremy Wood. These guys have become major players, especially with Cardano.
Yeah, their story starts way back in 2015.
Oh, wow. So early days for blockchain.
Early days, exactly. IOHK, back then they were actually called Input Output Hong Kong. They had this vision, using blockchain to make financial services accessible for everyone. And they saw blockchain as, well, the key.
And both these founders, they had history with Ethereum, right?
Yeah, they did, in fact.
Charles Hoskinson was even a co-founder.
He was one of the co-founders.
So why leave that and start IOHK?
There were some disagreements about where Ethereum was going, how they were doing things.
What kind of disagreement?
How they were approaching commercialization, for one thing. Hoskinson, he wanted something more research-driven, grounded in science, peer-review research.
So build it right, not just build it fast.
Exactly, and that's how IOHK was born.
So this research focus, how is that different from what everyone else was doing back then?
IOHK, they were very deliberate. They partnered with universities.
Which ones?
Like Edinburgh, the Tokyo Institute of Technology, even the University of Wyoming.
Wow.
They wanted solid academic backing for their work, able to stand up to scrutiny, real science.
I see. So IOHK was different.
Definitely a different approach. They set themselves apart.
And this led them to create Cardano.
Cardano, yep. Launched in 2017, going through these carefully planned phases.
I've heard about those. Almost like a roadmap.
A roadmap.
Yeah.
Each phase brought key advancements.
Building it step by step, that must have been challenging.
It was, but that's where the research focus paid off.
And speaking of evolving, IOHK itself changed, right?
Big change in 2021, they rebranded.
To what?
Input Output Global, IOG, shows they were expanding worldwide.
Makes sense. And they moved their HQ too.
From Hong Kong to Wyoming.
Wyoming's become a blockchain hub. What was behind that move?
It was a shift, becoming truly global, applying their knowledge beyond just Cardano.
Expanding horizon.
Wider range of projects, bigger challenges.
So beyond Cardano, what else are they working on now?
Well, there's a Prism. That's a decentralized identity platform, for one.
Okay.
They used it in Ethiopia. Can you believe it? It created tamper-proof educational records.
That's amazing. Real-world impact.
They're solving real problems, not just building tech for the sake of it.
But before we do, I'd love to hear about the founders themselves, Charles Hoskinson and Jeremy Wood.
Fascinating guys, both of them.
What are their backgrounds? What's their vision for IOG?
Well, both of them, they have these really interesting journeys into blockchain.
You said there were these disagreements about Ethereum's direction.
One of the big things was how centralized Ethereum's governance was.
Okay, so what did Hoskinson want?
He believed in a truly decentralized platform. The community should have more power shaping the platform's direction.
Makes sense.
And he was really big on the research side, like we talked about.
So more democratic, more transparent?
Exactly. And Jeremy Wood, he was on the same page. He agreed.
So two different paths coming together with a shared vision. Now, we've talked Cardano a lot, but what are those other projects like Prism? You mentioned Ethiopia, tamper-proof educational records. How does that actually work?
That's a great example of IOG in action, solving real-world problems. So in Ethiopia, they had this problem managing educational credentials. There was no good system. It wasn't reliable, paper certificates, easy to forge.
Oh, so students couldn't really prove their qualifications.
And employers couldn't be sure if they were real or not. Huge barrier for students, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds. And they said, blockchain can fix this.
Okay, so how did they use it?
With a Prism, it's this platform where institutions can issue digital credentials.
Stored on the blockchain.
Securely stored, yeah. Can't be forged, can't be tampered with. Game changer in places where fraud is a problem.
I can see that. It's not just for diplomas.
Nope. Any kind of certificate, license, anything. More trustworthy, more efficient, the whole system.
But let's go back to Cardano for a bit. You mentioned Charles Hoskinson wanted it to be decentralized, community-driven. How does that play out in practice?
Well, Cardano's got this unique governance model. They call it Voltaire.
Voltaire, like the philosopher.
That's the one. because he was all about individual liberty, freedom of thought.
Okay, I see the connection.
And that's what Voltaire does for Cardano, empowers the community, gives them a voice. So token holders, those who hold ADA, they get to participate, proposing changes, voting on upgrades, funding decisions.
They really have a say.
Big time.
Yeah.
It's one of the few platforms that's truly embraced decentralized governance.
Power to the people. Okay, so we've seen how Cardano works internally, but what about the big picture? How does IOG see the whole blockchain landscape?
They see themselves as pioneers, pushing the boundaries. They believe blockchain can revolutionize everything, not just finance, but governance, healthcare, you name it.
They're thinking big.
And showing everyone that it can be done responsibly, creating a better world.
Not just tech for tech's sake.
Driven by these values of decentralization, transparency, empowerment, all of that.
Exciting stuff. So it wasn't a clean break then. It sounds like they had a vision that went beyond what Ethereum was doing at the time.
They wanted to build a company that put research first and make sure everything they built was open source, meaning anyone could see and use the code. To get this right, they teamed up with universities and academics, building a solid foundation for their projects.
Okay, so right from the start, they were all about transparency and collaboration.
Absolutely. And they had this core philosophy called cascading disruption.
Cascading disruption.
Which sounds a little dramatic, but is actually pretty insightful. They believe that even small changes in code or the way systems are designed can have a huge ripple effect and eventually reshape entire industries. Think about how the internet changed communication. That's the kind of impact they're aiming for.
That's a bold goal.
And while all of this was happening, IOHK was also evolving as a company.
What kind of changes were happening within IOHK?
In 2021, they decided to rebrand to Input Output Global, or IOG, reflecting their growing global reach. They moved their headquarters from Hong Kong to Wyoming in the US. Wyoming has become a hotbed for blockchain and cryptocurrency companies because of its favorable regulatory environment. It's a place where innovation is encouraged, and the government has been proactive in creating laws that support the growth of these technologies.
So it's a strategic move to be in a place that's friendly to blockchain development.
Exactly. And today, IOG has over 400 employees working across more than 50 countries.
Wow, they've really embraced this idea of decentralization, not just in their technology, but in how they run their company.
And their influence extends far beyond just Cardano. They've been busy developing a whole ecosystem of projects aimed at tackling real-world problems.
This is where it gets really interesting for me.
One of their most exciting ventures is Atala Prism, a decentralized identity platform.
I've heard of this, but I'm still a little fuzzy on what a decentralized identity platform actually means.
Imagine a world where you have complete control over your personal data. Instead of relying on institutions to store and manage your identity, you hold your own digital credentials on a secure, tamper-proof blockchain.
So it's like having a digital passport that you own and control.
And this has huge implications for everything from education and healthcare to voting and financial services. IOG is also working on a privacy-focused blockchain called Midnight.
Okay, now we're getting into some exciting territory.
Midnight is designed to address the growing concerns around data privacy in the digital age. It's a blockchain built from the ground up to protect sensitive information and give individuals more control over their data.
This is becoming increasingly important as we generate more and more data online.
And what sets IOG apart is their unwavering commitment to research.
I know we touched on this earlier, but how does their research focus actually play out in practice? Are they just publishing academic papers, or does it translate into tangible outcomes?
They have a global network of researchers collaborating with top universities all over the world. We're talking about institutions like the University of Edinburgh, the Tokyo Institute of Technology, and the University of Wyoming.
Oh, wow.
This isn't just about writing theoretical papers. It's about making sure their technology is built on a solid foundation of scientific research and can be applied in real-world settings.
Building tech that's been vetted and verified by experts in the field.
And this commitment to peer-reviewed research is a big part of what gives Cardano its credibility. It differentiates them from a lot of other projects in the blockchain space that are more about hype than substance.
It sounds like they're taking a long-term approach, building for the future, rather than chasing quick wins.
It shows a level of forethought and planning that's rare in the fast-paced world of blockchain. It's a complex challenge, but IOG believes it's essential for achieving true decentralization.
It definitely seems like they're taking a different approach than most blockchain projects, which tend to be more centrally controlled.
And this commitment to community involvement goes back to IOHK's founding principles. They believe that the future of blockchain is about empowering individuals and creating systems that are transparent, accountable, and owned by the people who use them.
It's an inspiring vision. But I'm curious how they plan to make this decentralized governance system work in practice. It sounds like a logistical nightmare to coordinate decision-making among potentially millions of ADA holders.
It's a challenge for sure, but they're developing sophisticated voting mechanisms and governance protocols to make it manageable. This helps to streamline the process and ensure that decisions are made efficiently. And the beauty of blockchain is that all of these votes and decisions are recorded transparently and immutably on the blockchain, so there's no room for manipulation or fraud.
That's a crucial point. Transparency and trust.
And that brings us back to another core aspect of IOG's approach, their unwavering dedication to research.
Yeah, we've mentioned this research focus a few times now, but let me get a bit more specific. Can you give us some examples of the kind of research IOG is involved in and what impact it's having?
They're involved in a wide range of research areas, from cryptography and consensus algorithms to game theory and formal verification. And this research isn't just happening in a vacuum, it's directly informing the development of Cardano and their other projects.
Can you give us a concrete example of how their research has translated into a real-world application or feature on Cardano?
One great example is their work on Ouroboros, Cardano's unique proof-of-stake consensus algorithm. This algorithm, which is a core part of how transactions are validated and secured on the blockchain, was developed through years of rigorous research and peer review. And it's considered one of the most energy-efficient and secure consensus algorithms in the industry.
So their research is literally shaping the way Cardano works at a fundamental level. It's not just an afterthought, it's baked into the DNA of the project.
And they're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible with blockchain technology. For example, they're researching ways to use formal verification techniques to mathematically prove the correctness of smart contracts, which could significantly enhance security and reduce the risk of bugs or vulnerabilities.
That sounds incredibly complex, but also incredibly important as more and more critical applications are built on blockchain.
It is complex, but that's why IOG's commitment to partnering with leading academic institutions is so crucial. They're bringing together some of the brightest minds in computer science and cryptography to tackle these challenges.
It's like they're building a blockchain that's backed by science, not just hype. It gives you a lot more confidence in its long-term potential.
And this research focus extends to their other projects as well.
It's a refreshing change of pace in an industry that's often driven by speculation and short-term gains.
It is. And it speaks to IOG's long-term vision. They're not just building products, they're building an ecosystem, a movement, a new way of thinking about technology and its role in society.
It sounds like they're really trying to change the world one line of code at a time. Well, I think we've done a pretty deep dive into IOG's journey so far. We've explored their history, their mission, their approach to developing Cardano, and their commitment to research. But before we wrap up, I'd love to shift gears a bit and get your personal take on something. IOG is betting big on this idea that decentralization can change the world. But what are your thoughts on that? Could a decentralized future really be more equitable and efficient? Or are there some roadblocks we haven't considered?
It's a question that sparks a lot of debate, and rightfully so. The potential benefits are enormous.
Right.
Think about more transparent and accountable systems, individuals having more control over their data and their finances, and a fair distribution of power and resources. Decentralization could level the playing field in a way that's never been possible before.
It's a compelling vision, for sure. But I imagine there will be pushback, especially from those who benefit from the current system. And are there technical challenges that might prevent a fully decentralized future?
You're absolutely right. There will be resistance from powerful entities that are accustomed to controlling these centralized systems. And on the technical side, we still need to figure out how to scale these decentralized systems to handle billions of users and transactions globally. Security is another big concern. How do we ensure these systems are resilient to attacks and vulnerabilities?
Those are critical questions. If IOG and other companies like them can overcome these challenges, it could fundamentally change how we interact with technology and with each other.
It's a paradigm shift,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to happen overnight. It requires a collective effort, a willingness to challenge the status quo, and a belief in the power of technology to create positive change. And it's important to remember that decentralization isn't a silver bullet. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. We need to be having these conversations now, thinking critically about the implications of these technologies and working together to ensure they're used responsibly and ethically.
I think this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of IOG. We've explored their origins, their mission, their groundbreaking work on Cardano, and their vision for a decentralized future.
And what's great is that IOG has made a lot of their research and development open source, so anyone can dive in, learn more, and even contribute to building this decentralized future.
I encourage all of you listening to keep digging deeper, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay curious.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of IOHK. Keep exploring, keep learning. The future of blockchain is waiting to be built. See you next time.
Thank you for being part of Cardano for Everyone. We hope you gained something valuable from today's episode. If you'd like to support our mission of making Cardano knowledge accessible for all, consider selecting Pasta from the pool list when you delegate. Every bit of support helps us bring more content to listeners like you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next episode.